Hey guys, we are so excited to be doing these Advent reflections with you. And as we begin this first week of Advent, we're really starting this 4-week journey in our hearts. And this journey is one of preparation for the arrival of Jesus. Now, this arrival of the divine is not just the birth of Jesus, it's also us preparing to receive God interiorly. Advent is as much about the birth of Jesus as it is about preparing our hearts and our souls to receive the divine. And so as we start this first week of Advent, we look at the first reading, and it comes from Isaiah, and it starts very nicely by reminding us to look at God as our Father. And I think this is a great place to begin any prayer, is a place of perspective, understanding who we are, a child of God, and who God is as our Father. And as we continue in Isaiah, there's this beautiful imagery of us in relationship with God, of us as the clay and God as the potter. And there's this idea of trust that is really being called upon in this reading. It takes trust for us to enter into a relationship where we are the clay and God is the potter. It takes trust because we have to trust that God knows what He is doing. We have to trust that He is forming us into something that's better than what we want to form ourselves into. It takes a surrender and a trust that we can allow God to pull us in His direction for our life. And this theme of trust continues in the responsorial psalm. The refrain, Lord, make us turn to you. In life, we can either turn towards God or away from God. When we turn away from God, it's typically because we don't trust Him or we're fearful to enter into what He's calling us to. When we turn to God, it's because we are leaning into His trust. We trust His plan for our life, and we are saying yes to what He is offering us. As we continue in the second reading, it's from 1 Corinthians, and there's a word I think that God is trying to communicate to us about Himself, and that word is faithful. God is faithful. And it says in 1 Corinthians that we were called by God, and before beginning any journey, we want to know that the person that's calling us to that journey is trustworthy. And so God is communicating that He is faithful, that we can count on Him, we can depend on Him, and He's not going to abandon us. It communicates in 1 Corinthians that He will provide for every spiritual need. And if we would just say yes to Him and trust in Him and enter in this journey He's calling us on, He would take care of all of our needs. And I think the big question that arises with all of this is, how do we trust God? How do we trust in Him? And I think that it's for this reason that the gospel really answers this question for us. In the gospel message for this coming Sunday, the very first words that Jesus says to His disciples are these two words: be watchful. Staying watchful and staying aware, I think, means seeing what God is putting in front of us. If we are watchful, we will notice things that we wouldn't if we were not watchful. You see, our God is not one that operates from a distance. Our God, through sending Jesus, has shown us that He's one that likes to be in proximity. He likes to enter into our situation, our circumstances, our community, and He wants to be there with us. And so if we are watchful and if we are aware, then we will start to see instances of God in our community, instances of God in our surroundings, in our circumstances. And we'll find opportunities to say yes to God in those. By saying yes to these daily instances of grace, we can actively trust in God. We can allow ourselves to be formed into what He intends. This season of Advent will culminate with the celebration of the birth of Jesus. But this arrival, again, is also one that is meant to happen in our hearts. How can we prepare for this intimate encounter with Jesus?